Hello, my name is Olivia, and I'm excited to share my passion for animals and farming with you. I've grown to love all animals, but horses seem to have a bigger piece of my heart. While I've lived on a small farm my entire life, I can't help but wonder how other farmers do it. Now it's time to get on the farm. Today, I'm at Cracker Box Palace Animal Sanctuary, located in Alton, New York. Cracker Box Palace is a no-kill farm animal shelter that cares for animals who are recovering from illness, neglect, abuse, financial crisis, family circumstances, or homelessness. The shelter's mission is to provide these animals with rest, safety, and rehabilitation. And when they are ready to begin their next journey, the shelter will help them find their forever home too. Okay, I get it. I've been talking too long. Let's explore the farm.
I'm Sara. I'm the farm director here at Cracker Box Palace. What that means is that I oversee the daily operations of the farm. I oversee everything from animal care to the staff, the volunteers, the historic initiatives, agricultural and conservation practices and efforts. What drew me to Cracker Box Palace is my close ties to my community. I grew up here in Wayne County, and I often spend a lot of time down in the Sodas Point with my grandparents. And they would bring me to Alisa Farms, and I'd get to hang out with the animals and feed them and just really get to know farm animals. After that, I joined 4-H and became heavily involved in farm animals in that aspect. But I had a great fondness for horses, and that's when I set out on to have an equine career. After I started up my own equine training business, I trained a horse that had been adopted from Cracker Box Palace named Major. He was a standard bred that had been rescued, and then after he was adopted, he was brought to me for training. Following him, I trained a horse named Junebug that also was adopted from Cracker Box and for a young girl. And then Cracker Box Palace reached out to me and said, hey, instead of the horses getting adopted then coming to you, could we send them to you for training, and then could we then get them adopted? So the first horse that I ever trained for Cracker Box directly was a horse named Patches, and after I trained her, I always say that Patches adopted me, and I came home with Patches, and that's when I became the horse bar manager here about 5 years ago. Lesa Farms, the actual farmstead, has not always been a sanctuary. Lesa Farms was a working model farm that had milking shorthorn cattle, they had whippet dogs, they had chickens, they had sheep, they had prized hackney horses and working Belgian horses throughout about 100 years here on the farm. In 2004, Cracker Box Palace outgrew the farm that they were currently at and moved to Lesa Farms. And then in 2011, Cracker Box Palace purchased Lesa Farms, and that's when Lesa Farms officially became a sanctuary to farm animals. Animals find their way to the farm through cruelty cases after they've been seized from law enforcement for neglect, abuse, and abandonment. And another way that animals come to the farm is through owner surrender if they can no longer care for them physically, financially, or if there was like a death in the family. And we typically have about 200 animals on the farm at any given time. The recovery process differs for each animal and each species, but commonly if they've come in from like a cruelty case or from neglect, what we do is we place them into quarantine, and then they receive medical attention from our veterinarians, our farriers, our vet techs, and our staff. They're put on special diets, they're given all of the immunizations that they need, and then once they're through the quarantine process, they're introduced into different herds based on their personalities or requirements. But mentally, sometimes the recovery can take a very long time, and so we just slowly work at it until they're ready. I feel like there's two main hardships when you're running a sanctuary. The largest one is always going to be compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue really affects you because you constantly feel like you're caring for things, and when you get home at night, if you have animals or kids at home, it just feels like caring just continues on throughout your entire day, and then when it comes down to self-care, you have nothing left to give. So people can really have their mental health affected by compassion fatigue when working in a shelter or an animal care environment. So that's definitely a hardship. Being the farm director, I see it sometimes in myself, but I also see it amongst the staff and the volunteers, and so we always try to be a close-knit community and try to make sure that we're spotting it in each other to make sure that we're all being as healthy as we can be. And I think the second one is always going to be losing the animals. Being a no-kill shelter and a sanctuary, we're with these guys until their last days. We do not euthanize for space or money or any reason outside of just, if they have an illness or old age. That is when we have to put them down, and it's always hard to say goodbye after you've spent so much time with them. So in March of 2022, we were called in to assist our community partner and the USDA and the DEC to seize animals from a cruelty case. When we got there, it was a lot of people. It was really chaotic. And we went in to assist with some pot-bellied pigs that were in the back of the farm. And when we got there, we were met with Pumbaa and Notorious Pig. We were also met with Pua and Peppa. And we helped rescue those 4. There was, I believe, at least four other potbelly pigs there on the farm, and our community partner rescued them. Every single one of them was extremely emaciated. And we didn't really know who was who. We didn't know, what genders they were or ages. We just went in and we got them out because they needed to get out. So when we brought them home, we were putting them into quarantine and we were doing our normal checks, body condition scoring, looking at their teeth, looking at their gender, trying to guess their ages, their coloring, that kind of stuff. And the 2 pigs that were together were Pumbaa and Notorious. Upon finding out that Notorious was in fact an intact male, we knew that Pumbaa had been exposed to him because they were living together. So we immediately separated them, and our veterinarian came out and did an ultrasound, and Pumbaa was pregnant with 2 baby pigs. She was very close to her due date despite her size because she was very emaciated, so we had no idea she was pregnant until the ultrasound. So we worked diligently to try to keep her weight and keep her calorie intake up so that she could grow her little babies inside her. In April of 2022, Pumbaa went into labor. And potbellies do not have the greatest of birth canals because they have been modified by humans through breeding to be as small as possible, much like a Chihuahua. So we set off to Cornell University, and Pumbaa had a cesarean, and when they went in, one of the babies had pushed the other baby out a little too hard and too fast. So unfortunately, she lost the baby that was supposed to come out first. But the second baby was still alive, and they pulled her out, and that's Piggie Smalls. So Piggie Smalls has kind of always lived her life a little in the fast lane. All the way from birth, she was like, come on, move, I'm ready to go. We brought them home after the C-section, and Pumbaa did not make any milk. She had never had babies before, she didn't make any milk, so we actually had to bottle feed her. We were up like every 2 hours in the beginning, feeding her even through the night. And as she got older, the 2 hours got to like 3 hours, and then 4 hours, and eventually she could eat during the day and sleep at night. But because of that, Piggie Smalls and Pumbaa never really bonded as like a mother and daughter duo. So Piggie Smalls moved out and started living on her own at a very young age. And she instantly became a farm favorite. So everyone that comes here wants to see her and give her treats, and we've had volunteers who have actually trained her to do various tricks. She can sit, she can stand, she can spin, she can sometimes, it's a shake, but it's like a pig shake, not a dog shake. And so she is now learning how to walk on a harness, so that way she can go out into the community and go to a community event to teach people about pigs and how they can make great pets, and you can have great bonds with them, and they can learn just as many things as dogs can. When I go to internship or like career fairs and stuff for colleges, a lot of people in animal science have an interest in dogs, and that's one of my selling points, is if you come here, you may not get a dog, but you could work with pigs like Piggie Smalls, and they can do just as many, sometimes more tricks than some dogs. So.
My name is Mason, and my connection is that I volunteer and my mom's the farm director. My favorite thing about the sanctuary is we have all these farm animals.
Who are you holding right there?
Columbia.
What do you like about Columbia?
She's so sweet.
To help your local sanctuaries, the biggest thing is to donate your time. Become a volunteer and help them out, even if it's just for a half an hour a week, an hour a week. It can really lighten the burden when, you know, it's being a farm, you never know when things are gonna happen. You never know when a water line's gonna break, or a goat's gonna take a door off, or a cow's gonna run through the fence, or, so if you have a volunteer, like having a good volunteer group that can be there to help step in those emergencies, but even just providing a half an hour worth of care, such as taking care of these lovely rabbits, it can eliminate the stresses that can happen, and it can help provide the best possible care that we can to these animals, and it really helps us network in the community. Another way is to donate money. Most nonprofits run off grants and donations, and with rising costs and inflation, we suffer from the same rising costs as any other farm. So our grain has all gone up, our hay has gone up, and staffing has gone up. And so even if it's $5, it can make a huge difference for a nonprofit and a sanctuary. Something I wish that everyone knew about the animals is that each one of them are unique and they all have their own personalities. That even when it comes down to just species, not every goat wants to eat everything plus the tin can. Pigs aren't garbage disposals. Cows can form bonds and relationships. Chickens can recognize you, and rabbits are not low maintenance. You can't just throw them in a cage and throw them a little bit of food and water and they'll be good. And that if people are really interested in farm animals and wanting to own them or work with them, then I really would like them to know that they can go to their local farm animal shelters and volunteer and learn about them and do the research and be prepared for them to come home with them.
If the animals could talk, what do you think they would tell you?
Thank you for all the help you've done.